Hi, everybody. My name is Mags, and welcome to BOSS, Beauty of the Suffering Souls. I just kind of wanted to tell a little bit about my story and who I am, where I came from, and what has brought me here. I think the first thing that really means a lot to me first is to thy own self be true. And I found that I had to be true to myself. I had to be honest with myself so that I could be myself. And to be myself, I had to accept me for who I am. And that brings me to acceptance is the key. And I realized that to love myself, it entailed accepting who I am and the things that I've done. For a very long time, I was a very insecure person. I didn't too much believe in myself. I didn't have much self worth. I didn't think many people liked me. And I tried my hardest to be what other people wanted me to be. And I didn't realize how much damage that was causing me. And growing up in the church, I always tried to be perfect. I always wanted to do what God wanted me to do. I always wanted to make sure I lived my life accordingly. But the thing about it was is that I always tried to be perfect. And trying to be perfect, it made me realize that not making mistakes, that was part of my problem, is that I tried to be so perfect that I didn't want to make any mistakes. And when I did make mistakes, I felt like a failure. I felt that I was letting myself down, my family down, my siblings down, and most of all, God down. So I tried to hide and I tried to bottle it all up and I tried not to think about it because the more I thought about it, the more I felt worthless. And it also brought me to a point to where I just didn't even want to look in the mirror because I felt like I was letting so many people down. And I really just couldn't accept that. So that's when I began to, I think, just stop focusing, stop thinking. I really just didn't want to think at all. And also, part of that being perfect is I always wanted to please other people. I always wanted to make other people feel good. I wanted them to be happy, and not realizing that making other people happy was taking away my happiness because I was focusing more on them rather than myself. So I would always do what other people wanted. I would try to make them happy, make their lives more satisfying, make their lives more easy. And it was putting more stress on me, more, I don't know, more stress, more heartache. And it just really was beginning to make me miserable. It really was. And I would always go to a point where I would do things for people that they could do for themselves, and then I wouldn't do anything for me. Um, I don't really think that I was trying to make people like me, but I guess when I think about it, it really was. We all want people to like us, of course, but I spent most of my time trying to speak a certain way, dress a certain way, act a certain way, so that people would like me. And the part about it is the kicker of it all is that made people seem like me even less because in my opinion I thought people felt like, oh well, she thinks she's better than us or she thinks she's better. But in all actuality, no, I didn't. It didn't make me feel like I was better. If anything, I still began to feel even worse. I felt less than my whole life growing up that way, from trying to be perfect, not being perfect, from trying to please people, not able to please people, and trying to be what others wanted me to be. And then once, when I finally started doing all these things, trying to make everybody else feel better, and like I said, that's what I started trying to hide. I started trying to bottle it up. I didn't want to think anymore. And that's what brought me to my addiction. I started off with drinking, and I was drinking beer, and it started out as one beer. I remember the first drink that I had. I was playing basketball in high school, And my coach Young, me and my friend, I won't say her name because she may not be too happy, but we were playing basketball. We were in Dallas. We had a tournament, and I had some MD 2020, and we drank it, and I mean, we got sick as a dog. And of course, we got found out, and she wouldn't let us play that next game. But, she let us stay out of the game probably for about the first 5 minutes, and then she put us back in. But I remember that first drink, MD 2020. And after then, I didn't drink that anymore. I stuck to beer. But, and for a while, I drank a beer here and I drank a beer there. But of course, sooner or later, I got older and I got more problems, and I continued to want to hide. And I started drinking more. So it became a 6 pack, and then it became a 12 pack. And then pretty soon it started getting to the point to where I was getting drunk and I still wanted to have fun. I still wanted to continue to have fun, or at least I thought it was fun. And to be honest, in the beginning, yes, it was fun. I'm not going to say that it wasn't, because I really was. I was enjoying myself. I could be myself. I didn't have fear. I didn't care what people thought about me. It didn't matter because I didn't feel anything, So I was able to I don't know if you would say take that mask off or put the mask on. I really don't know which one it really was, but all I know is that I wasn't being me, but I didn't care at that moment when I was under the influence. But that seemed to have stopped working. And then I graduated. I graduated to what they call cocaine. And I started out sniffing it a little bit here and there. And then I graduated to smoking it. And one of the things about that is that I really had to learn how to do it. I had to learn how to smoke cocaine. And in the beginning, I smoked it and I didn't feel anything. And I just kept trying it and, trying to get the smoke, trying to make it act right, trying to make me feel right. And and when I look back on it now, I was teaching myself how to kill myself. And it's really sad now, but back then I wasn't thinking. I was young and I just wanted to do what everybody else was doing. I didn't want to feel. And so that's where my cocaine addiction started. And it continued for many, many, many years. And it brought me to places that I never, ever thought that I would be or that I never would go. It made me do things. I wasn't perfect, and I knew that I wasn't perfect, but I continued, regardless of what I was doing, I continued to think that I had to be perfect. I had to, I continued to go to church. That's one of the things that I never stopped doing. I mean, sometimes I would wake up, I'd drink a beer, and I would be to church. But my thinking in my mind, I would always say, well, who knows what will happen to me when I go to church. I may hear this one thing and magically my addiction will go away. But I always believed enough in God to know that He and only He could take it away from me. But I also knew that I had to fix myself. He would do so much for me, but I had to at least be willing to do what He required of me. And I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready whatsoever, but I thought I was. But I still continued to go to church and do the things that I needed to do. But I was going in this spiral, and you don't see yourself. That was a sermon that the preacher preached this past Sunday. I was drifting just slowly, and you drift so slow. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't. You don't turn into an alcoholic or an addict overnight. It doesn't happen like that. It goes so gradually that you don't even see it happening. First, you think you're having fun. You're doing it because everybody else is doing it. And then you eventually start doing it because you want to wake up and you don't want to have a hangover. Or you start doing it because you have to speak in front of someone. Or you do it because you want to perform a little better. Or you want to just do anything. We make up all type of excuses of the reason why I needed to do it. But after a while, it comes to a point where I have to do it. I had to do it to get out of bed, or I had to do something to go to sleep. And that's the way it goes, but it goes so slowly that you don't even see yourself drifting away from reality until you hit that wall. And when you hit that wall, it's really really hard. I mean, I don't even know how else to say it except that wall is very hard. And many times you can hit a wall and you will bump into the wall or you may trip over the wall. But I feel in my life, my situation, I had to hit that wall. And sometimes it hurt and I scraped myself, picked myself up and washed the dirt off and did all that and stopped and slowed down. But then, you know, it wasn't enough of a lesson. It didn't hurt me enough, you know? The consequences hadn't gotten great enough. That's what I would say. The consequences were not great enough. You know, some people consequences, it doesn't take as much as mine did. But I had to almost die, unfortunately. You know, it took me to that level. You know, I did things that I never wanted to do. I mean, and mostly I hurt my family. That was the most devastating thing that I could ever do is hurt a family that loved me so much. I know my mom and dad would give me anything in the world. And I know my siblings, my brothers and sisters, they love me to death, and I know that. I have people in my life that never turn their backs on me, but I turn my back on them. And I made them suffer. When you're in addiction, you're very selfish. You don't care about other people. You think you do, but your addiction overtakes that. It overtakes the love that you feel for others because you don't have it for yourself. So it takes so much away from a person. And it's not that we intentionally do it. We don't wake up and say, I want to be an addict. I never woke up and said that. I woke up with dreams. I had things that I wanted to do. I had places I wanted to go. You know, I wanted to be somebody, but I always thought somebody else was better than me. So other people did things better than me, and I have the most worst luck in the world. I do. I always remember my mom telling me that, you know, God must really be trying to tell you something because if it was going to happen, it was going to happen to me. You know, I probably can't even count how many car accidents I've had on my hand or how many times I've been driving down the street, you know, under the influence. Forgive me, but yes, I did it plenty of times. But I would always be the one that got stopped or got pulled over, got a DUI, you know, and I always felt like, you know, why me, God? Why is this happening to me? Why is it that this person next to me can be sitting over here stone drunk? You know, but most times these people were smart enough not to get behind the wheel, or if they did, they just didn't get caught. But really, God was trying to tell me something. He was trying to tell me, look, girl, you're throwing your life down the drain. But yet, I didn't hear him. No matter how many times my mom told me, you know, I did not hear what she was saying or what he was saying. I continued to go down that spiral. And sooner or later, the spiral started getting it began more narrow. It began to get tougher. It began to get longer. And then I finally decided, hey, I need to quit this. I'm hurting too many people. I never saw it as hurting me. I knew I was hurting other people, and I did. I felt like, well, I'm not hurting you. I'm in Denver or I'm in Florida. Why do you care? I'm not hurting you. You know, but that was the selfishness in me. I mean, you don't have to physically hurt someone to hurt them, and I feel like a heartache is so much worse than physically hurting someone. And I was doing that. And I was finally willing. Well, I would say the first time I went to treatment is I was forced to. The courts made me go due to 3 DUIs within probably 8 months. And yeah, so they made me go to treatment, and I was angry. I was very angry. So I didn't get anything out of it. I did. That wasn't my purpose. My purpose was to go there so that I wouldn't have to go to jail. But, you know, so I didn't get much out of it. But I did hear what they were saying, but I didn't retain it. So then, about a couple of years later, after I was still drinking and doing drugs, I finally said, well, maybe that will work. And I went the second time on my own. And when I went, people were saying, they ask you how many times you've been to treatment and all this. And I heard people say 3, 4, 5 times. And I said to myself, wow, how can people keep coming back and not getting it, you know? And unfortunately, it took me 4 times. And it's not how many times you go, it's if you are going for yourself and if you're going to get something out of it. And sometimes it takes us more than one time. Sometimes it takes people only one time. But each time I was beginning to learn a little bit more. It was beginning to tell me a little bit more about myself and why I was doing what I was doing. So the second time that I went, they asked me this one question: what would you do? What are you willing to do? How far are you willing to go for your recovery? And, I said, if anybody told me to get on the table and cluck like a chicken, I'll do it. But did I know? But I still had my pride and my ego. But it's like, I was out there doing whatever in the streets that I wanted to do, embarrassing myself and my family. And I had no pride. I had no ego there. How dare me go to treatment? And then I want to, all of a sudden I got this pride. I got this ego, It's like, really, Margaret? But, so no, I never clucked like a chicken. No, I didn't, but maybe I should have. But, that was at that point, that question stuck with me. How far are you willing to go to stop this road of destruction? And I did. I heard what they said and I listened and I did. I stayed sober for 3 years. And I was really trying, I hadn't gotten the full core of what it is that I needed to get. And finally, and I do believe this at my age, at the age of 57, which I am now, and yes, I'll tell you guys, but yeah, at 57, I finally matured. I've finally grown up. I finally think that I've gotten it. And it was that I had to learn to love me for who I am. I had to accept that I'm not perfect. I had to accept that I make mistakes. I had to accept that God still loves me. God never made me. He never made me intending for me to be perfect. That was for Adam and Eve. But, so from the get-go, God knew we weren't going to be perfect. So I had to learn to love myself, to accept the things that I'd done, and to say that it's okay, it's over. No, by me accepting these things, by no means mean that it's okay to hurt people or to destroy my life or destroy other people's lives, even strangers' lives. I've hurt people that I don't even know, and that doesn't make it okay. But it makes it okay to say, Margaret, it's okay. You're human. And then I began to love myself for me and not to go out and have to please everybody, trying to get acceptance from somebody else when I had to get the love that I was looking for from me. And that's what most addicts and drug addicts are, is that they have a void. There's something that they're trying to fill. There's a hole. And not only, don't get, when I speak, I'm not only speaking about addiction. It's about life. It's about people. Most people have a hole that they're trying to fill, whether it's with food, whether it's with crime. I mean, a lot of us have this addiction to where people steal, and there's also the eating, the gambling, the shopping. There's all type of things that we try to do to compensate for what we're missing. But deep inside, for me, I had to go inside of me and say, Margaret, what is it? What's going on? I had to be true to myself, honest with myself, to get to know who I was. I never knew who I was. I was too busy trying to find out who everybody else was and what they wanted and what their needs was. And it's not an excuse. Believe me, it's not an excuse. It's just my life. And that's basically it. I had to know and accept that I'm human. I'm not perfect. I can't make everybody else's life perfect. And I began to look in the mirror and see me. I began to see somebody else looking back at me. I could look in my eyes and see that there's somebody in there and that I deserve happiness. I deserve the love that I'm trying to give everybody else. Me trying to make everybody else happy, I couldn't, because it was just something to do to try and fill that void instead of trying to fill my void. That's something that I want to do. I'll always want to help somebody because that's who I am, and I won't let anything take that away from me. But at the same time, I can't help anybody else unless I help myself. And that's one of the most valuable lessons I think that I've learned is that I had to learn to love me, take care of me, and don't let Margaret destroy Margaret, because that's what I was doing. Nobody else did it. Nobody else. No matter whatever happened in my life, nobody put a gun to my head and made me take that first drink or made me take that first hit of cocaine. Nobody did it. I chose to do it. There may have been circumstances that led me to it, or there may have been consequences or some type of behavior, but what it all boils down to is that we make that final decision. And the way I was raised, I mean, you would think that I had everything that I needed. My parents loved me. They did. I never needed for anything. Thank you, Mom and Dad. I didn't. I didn't know what it was to need anything, but I just didn't know how to live, and I one of the things that I heard in recovery is people say that they don't regret the past. I had to think on that for a very long time because I can't say that I don't really regret it, but I don't regret it because it brought me who I am. And I think God, I know, I should stop saying I think, because I know that God allowed these things to happen to me because He wanted me to see who I was. He wanted me to see how much He loved me, how much He cared for me. He saved me so many times. I'm serious. I've been in so many rollover car accidents that this girl should have been dead. But that's how much God wanted. He allowed me to go through this heartache so that I could see that He loves me. He's taking care of me. He's with me. My family loves me. They've never turned their backs. Unfortunately, there has been people who their parents, their families has turned their backs, and they had to, and that may be part of the plan, because nothing happens in this world. Nothing happens in this world by mistake. So if you're somewhere in your life and you're not happy with it at this moment, just take it and be grateful that you still have this moment, that you're still alive. Just take the lesson and learn from it, and it's not easy to do. Life isn't easy. None of this is easy to do. We just, I find that I was complaining too much. I was whining too much, and they say if you see something about somebody and you don't like that in that person, most times it's because you see that in you. And I do. I can't. Whiners, I just cannot stand a whiner, and that's me. I am. When I get sick or anything, I whine. So, but I'm saying all that to say just accept life for what it is, because you'll be much happier if we try and fight things and go against the grain. Most times the more we fight, the worse it gets, and it's okay to surrender. Raise that flag and say, hey, I'm powerless, I can't do this anymore. I can't do it. But one thing about it is you can do it. You can do it. You may not can do that life anymore, but you can go on. And by the grace of God, and without God, I couldn't have done it, believe me. But I had to hit those walls. And this last wall I hit, yeah, it almost killed me. It really almost killed me. It it took me to a place to where I was hospitalized, due to my my life, and the behaviors that I chose. I now have a condition, a medical condition. I have a problem with my heart, and once again, I don't cry because I'm sad. I cry because God saved me again. And I know that He has a purpose for me. And I'm ready. I'm ready for what God has in store for me. I've said that many, many times before. Not many times before, but I would say like 2 or 3 times before, yeah, because I thought I was ready. But I didn't. I was ready, maybe physically, but not mentally, not spiritually, not emotionally. But now I know that I'm ready because I'm taking steps. I've been so fearful of taking steps. I would get so close to doing something, but yet I would be so far. And then it would be like when you're about to reach the top of a mountain and then you, not purposely, but you somehow slip and you're back down that mountain again. And I looked up and I was like, oh God, not again. But I was really ready to get up and fight again, but I wasn't ready to reach the top. And I'm not necessarily meaning the top. I mean, I'm just ready to reach Margaret. I'm ready to live. I'm ready to say it's okay to love myself. It's okay to be who I am. It's okay about the mistakes that I made. And it's okay if that I'm an addict. But first and foremost, I'm a child of God. God has given me all of this. He's given me a blessing. So when people say they don't regret it, I guess I don't. I mean, I don't, because I wouldn't have found me. I wouldn't have been able to take this step here today, this step sharing my life and who I am and where I've been and what I've done. It has brought me to be able to tell you who I am and who I'm about to be. And it's just going to be me, and I'm going to be happy. I wake up, I'm happy. I don't need anything to wake me up except God. I don't need anything to let me have a good night's rest except God. And acceptance, accepting me that I'm okay, that it's okay to be Margaret, and that Margaret is a lovable person, and that I deserve to live. I deserve happiness. I deserve to do the things that I want to do. I deserve to reach that top. I deserve to live my life and be able to share and let other people know that they too can be happy. It doesn't matter what your life is bringing you, but you can bring happiness into your life. We don't have to keep the bad. We don't have to focus on the bad. Just focus on your life and loving yourself. To thine own self be true. And that's really one of the things that I really, truly, and honestly believe is to thy own self be true. Because you can't be true to anybody else until you're first true with self.